Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Williams.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for agreeing to do this mock session. My name is Ifeanyi Ukeze. Today we'll be having a couple session, but it's not really a therapy session. It's just a mock session for my class project. I'm working on a principle based on this book, 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work by Gottman Mock. I have chosen a principle from this book that talks about solving your unsolvable problems. We know that in a marriage relationship, sometimes there are problems that may not be solvable, but for the most part, there's a lot of big problems that can be solved with good communication and good attitude. So today, we're going to be looking at solving the solvable problems. Now, solving the solvable problems from this book, according to the authors, they said that they have come up with some principles and steps that if you follow these steps, you will be able to at least solve most of your problems. And the first one is what they call softening your startup. Startup is how you begin when you're about to talk to somebody. How do you start? Do you start harshly or do you start softly? And that makes a lot of difference. If you start by saying to them something like, you didn't do this, I asked you to get the kids and you forgot. It's really not nice leaving the kids. Instead of just starting up with, again, you have forgotten again. How many times am I going to tell you? How many times do I have to remind you? That soft startup, when we start up harshly, it puts the other person in a defensive position immediately. But the soft startup kind of douses the tension and makes the person maybe want to make amends. The second principle is learning to make and receive repair attempts. So when one person starts up softly, then the other person can say, okay, why don't we do this? For example, in the book, it talked about the couple that one of them was really stressed. And when she complained that she had so much housework and the man is not helping, he said, okay, why don't we just go out, get some rest, let's go out for dinner today. And she was like, yes, like that is going to solve anything. When we come back, all this work is going to be there. He was trying to make a repair attempt, but she was not accepting it. So making and accepting repair attempts is very important. And then the next principle is soothe yourself and each other, which means when one person is maybe trying to boil over, or even you find out that you're about to get angry, you can actually take a deep breath and step back and try to calm down before you speak again. Then compromise is the next one. We know that in every relationship, for relationships to work, there has to be compromise. And then the last one, the fifth one, is processing any grievances so that they don't linger. Every time that somebody's angry, it's good that they let it out at that time instead of piling it up, because the more it's piled up, the larger it grows. So keep piling it up, and at some point, one little thing can make everything blow out of proportion. So that is an introduction of the principle that we're going to use today. Now, we're going to talk about a hypothetical scenario, and I would like for you to talk about this hypothetical scenario. Something like, let's say, Mrs. Smith, and you come back and you're exhausted. Your husband has just come back from work and he's watching TV, he's eating, and the plates are all everywhere, and you have told him and you don't like seeing dirty plates everywhere, but he's just done that. Can we kind of like see how we're going to manage that situation based on the principles that we have talked about?
Okay.
You address him.
I listen to those principles, so I'm going to say, obviously you know what I would have done Typically, I come in on a very stressful day, you're watching TV. You have plates scattered all over the place. And of course, as you normally do, you would leave it and go to bed or come to bed. I would do one of two things. I would start shouting or I'll be passive aggressive about it, just not even talk to you and go to the bedroom. But I think in this situation, maybe considering what um, Doc has said here, maybe what I would do is ask you to just greet you nicely, be friendly, and try not to eye the plates all over the place, and ask you to please, don't forget to take care of those plates when you're leaving. And then in the meantime, what are we having for dinner?
Mr. Williams?
That's kind of pleasant. I mean, that would be a huge change from shouting. But what are we having for dinner? Plates means I've eaten, but however, that's a good thing. What I would do in that regard would first off explain to you how busy my day has been. Not an excuse. Apologize. Because I realized, okay, you're making an effort to tell me what I've done wrong again without the fireworks. And yeah, I would get up, clean up, and hopefully make you a hot plate or order something for dinner. And that would be quite nice, in my opinion.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
So, well, going by this, how do you think it would have been different if you had come in shouting, and then how would you have responded if she had come in shouting about the plate and all of that?
Well, number one is that I've come to realize that the shouting probably stresses me out more than it stresses me out. So for my own self-preservation, the shouting is not the best way to go. And but learning also from what you've said, I've realized that on a day that I don't shout, what I typically would have done was just look at him, look at the plate, and just go inside to go and mind my own business. Passive aggressive, and you said something about not letting things become an elephant in the room. So I would say, speak, because otherwise it will be big. He will come in, knowing him, he will come to bed and sleep comfortably, not even, and I'll be awake because now I'm angry. And then by the next day, I am so pissed that I won't talk to him in the morning. This might lead to days of not speaking. And why waste life?
That's pretty much true. First off, with the shouting, I'll just zone out, not trying to put myself in a position or understand the dynamics of what is going on. And like she said, might have a beer or two and go to bed and sleep. And like you said, it just kind of flies off the handle from that. And once you're not communicating, a lot of things, the situation gets exacerbated.
Okay, that's very good. So do you think that with this kind of situation or approaching it like this, it's easier for you to come to a solution when there is a problem, to find a copy, because this problem needs to be solved. So to be able to talk and generate a solution for going forward for this kind of issue. Mr. Williams, would you say that would work with you?
Yes, I think that would work. That would definitely work because it's all about the approach, and then we'll find perhaps a lasting situation to it. Put up a blackboard of clean up after yourself or something. A kind of reminder, because I walk into the house, I'm totally tired, I'm not thinking that she'll be home yet. I just want to decompress, kind of. and I kind of lose sight of time before I know she's in there. But having something like a reminder, sets off the alarm to say, okay, take the other person into consideration in what you do. But certainly that approach will work, yes.
Okay. Well, so do you think that you see yourselves applying this in your relationship? Do you think that you can apply this principle in your relationship?
Thing is this. Yes, you can. A few times. Problem is, if it keeps happening, and you keep having to, approach it this way, people do eventually blow up. I mean, because you would wish that having tried a few times to tackle this thing gently, that he also would learn from it and, decide as an adult to also take my consideration into, yeah.
Williams, do you think that would work? If she's bringing it up, being gentle, for example, do you think that that would make you more responsive, make you more proactive in trying to make sure that these issues are not?
Yes, like I said, these principles will work, but as she already pointed out, I think it'll be on a short term. That's why I brought up the idea of maybe putting up, like markers, like remind you, because if someone has to go down this route consistently, at some point they're gonna be like, you ought to know this. I don't have to keep repeating this.
Just to ask the question, you don't think that's going over it a couple of times, 3, 4, 5 times is reminder enough? We are adults.
Well, yeah, I suppose it is, but I think we're wired differently. So, there's certain things, the dynamics of women, you see it, you get it, your approach is different. We're like a bull in a Chinaware shop. Sometimes we're not that delicate in how we handle things.
Okay, well, thank you very much. It really is indeed, but there's a part of that where we talked about compromise as well. It's important that each person learns to, put the other person's feelings, think about the other person's feelings as well. And if you consider their feelings, that will be enough reminder for you. But I believe that when there's we already talked about it, there's a soft startup kind of makes any reasonable person want to, go into a smooth conversation and do what they're supposed to do. And it wouldn't be a question of fighting and fussing. Well, thank you so much, Mr. and Mrs. Williams, for agreeing to do this. And I will take the informed consent. As I have said there, this is not a therapy session. This is just for my project, and I really am glad that you agreed to do this with me today. Thank you very much, and I'll see you some other time.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure, Dr.
Do you have any questions for me?
When is this doctorate of yours end?
Pretty soon, hopefully. Thank you.
I'm looking forward